Yeah, so that, and then now we go to job opportunities in the COVID world, which is the main topic for today. So as I said, this is the big elephant in the room. There is generally a lot of anxiety about that amongst students and young professionals. And I think there are two paths that you can follow, right? One is that you stick to architecture, pure architecture, and you say, okay, I just want a job in architecture. The second one is that you use the crisis as an opportunity to segue into, another creative sort of line, another creative career line. Thankfully, our education really prepares us to, do many things. And so we can definitely use this opportunity to, try to do something else. So tackling the first one first, if you want to, look for a job in architecture. So this, as we said before, construction industry is slowing down, jobs are going to be fewer, projects are going to be fewer, right? So there'll be more people looking for those fewer jobs. So I think the main important goal here is how do you set yourself apart? So when you send your resume or your portfolio to someone, how do you make sure that someone looks at it, right? What's your edge? So when it comes to that, like within your skill set, I feel that there are two very important things that you could build on. One is your skill of 3D visualization and rendering. This is becoming increasingly important in today's world. Clients expect really lifelike visuals. Architects expect really artistic visuals because we want to apply for competitions, we want to apply for publications, we want to put it up on our social media, we want to appear cool. So, both sort of methods are in great demand. So if you could build your skills on 3D visualization, I think it can go a really long way in giving you an edge. I want Wahi to jump in here because he, as I said, led a firm of like 100-some people doing 3D visualization work. And, he obviously knows more about this than I do. Wahi?
Yeah, so 3D visualization as such can be a masterclass in itself. But just the broad aspect of it, a couple of softwares which are obviously important for visualization are, for an architectural office, SketchUp is great because, you can do quick, you can generate quick 3D spaces to discuss the form and how it works and how it looks with your, in this case, your boss would be your client as such. Just to understand how the scheme of the space is, SketchUp is great. Now, when you're trying to do something over and above and beyond that to show the clients and how to make it more realistic, then you're introducing things like V-Ray or Lumion or even using 3D Max with V-Ray to enhance it further. You don't just end there. Finish it off, post-process it in Photoshop, bring the colors out, place things in Photoshop. I'm not talking about placing things like birds and swans and stuff in the lake and, all that. Just have your clean line with the building. Think of a frame in a 3D like a photograph. Use the rules of photography to frame the view and take it and add elements like that. Don't overcrowd your space with too many extra things. We still want to see the building. We still want to see how the clean lines look and how the how the basic form of the building is. So don't add so many plants that you can't really see anything. But it's a fine line. But again, like I said, look at examples of architectural photography. They will give you a great idea on what we want to look at, how the 3D view itself should look.
Yeah. There was another question that Srini had about, softwares that the students should learn. So I know you talked about a few softwares for the 3D rendering, but you want to just carry on with that as well?
Yeah, so I think software can be divided into two portions. One is essentials, and then there are softwares which can further enhance your skill set. If I'm talking about essentials, then there are four basic softwares that I think everyone should know. AutoCAD, Photoshop, and SketchUp are the three obvious ones. One software that people overlook is Excel. It's something that comes in really handy in day-to-day working of any project. from making basic spreadsheets about the scheduling of the project to doing BOQs and stuff. There are other softwares which can go into further detail, like Microsoft projects and stuff. But Excel is still something that everyone should learn because it comes in really handy for everything.
I mean, but the thing is, sorry, go ahead.
No, then I was talking about further enhancing your skill set. Now, these are not essentials or the basics that are required to do architecture as well, but they're great to for say client presentations or other things like Adobe Premiere, Lightroom, 3D Max V-Ray. Now, these are softwares which will really build up your portfolio really well. And things that we look at, because these are you don't need them every day, but when you do, you really do need them.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that actually brings me to my second point about because you mentioned the Adobe Premiere. Along with 3D visualization, I feel the second skill set that students can really pick up and, that can give them the edge is video making and video editing. Because I feel that, social media today, and especially because of this COVID where, people are interacting more and more on social media, I feel that the graphic skills are becoming very important. So skills of really good photography and photo editing, and then now videos and video editing. So guys, if that is something that you can again pick up and show your skill in your portfolio and resume, I think that can go a long way in landing you that the jobs that are anyways fewer and out there. Vahi, another thing that I wanted to just bring up here, because you and I discussed this at length, so I just want to introduce that to our audience. That we were just saying that for all these softwares, it's very difficult to actually learn them through tutorials. Like you can learn them through tutorials, but at the end of it, unless you actually apply them, there's no point really, right? It just kind of goes away unless you apply them. So you and I had some ideas on that.
Yeah, I think one of the most basic ideas, and I think a lot of architecture students have always thought of, is a house, what would be an ideal house for you yourself to live in. But that's the easy part because you know what you have to do. We were in fact discussing that one of the most difficult clients you can have are your own parents.
Yeah.
And, that's something that's very interesting. You have time right now. We are on lockdown in most areas of the country, in fact, all over the world. Select your parents as your partners. Do a project with them. It's almost like doing a thesis again. But go into the details of actually making presentation, making working drawings, do a BOQ, do an analysis on material requirements and the expense that will take place, because this will actually help you in a real world scenario. And you can actually add this to your portfolio because, what did you do during these 2.5 months while you were sitting at home? So you can actually show, something in your portfolio that you actually added and how you enhance your skills.
Right. And in fact, guys, again, I think this whole BOQ thing and the whole technical, side of construction is not something that, you go into a lot of detail in architecture school. And even if, there are classes, I think all of our students, we're so obsessed with design that we just don't focus on this stuff, but it's so important. I constantly hear about architects talking about cost of construction, and they have no idea how much things cost. They're still talking about numbers which are super outdated because they're just not in touch with the actual construction and billing and things like that. So if I'm just throwing it out there, I don't know how to do it, but if you guys do need help with understanding BOQs or something, we could potentially think of doing another little masterclass, where we could share how we do our BOQs, because our BOQs are fairly detailed, so yeah. All right, now moving along, Maya had a question about portfolios, so I just want to touch on that again. We did talk about it briefly before, but guys, when you're sending your portfolio, please don't make sure they're not like super heavy files. That's number one, okay? Number two is like, I don't really need to see like 20 pages, 30 pages, or 15 pages, even 15 pages or 12 pages of your portfolio. If you're good, I will know that from the very first page of your portfolio, right? So just put work that is excellent in there, okay? And if you feel that you don't have that quality of work from your architecture school, use this time to spruce up one project that you did, okay? Like just make beautiful plans and sections, make beautiful renderings, right? Or, any graphic material, but just present that one thing that is excellent. And, I can just see one image. I don't need to see 10 pages, 5 pages, 5 projects. I just need to see one image, and I know that you're good, right? And the fact that if you've taken the care to actually put that one image together, which is excellent, that's enough. So that's a big tip for the portfolio from my side. The other thing that I wanted to say was that, now that we all have like really great internet, we are all looking at the phone, make sure your portfolio is formatted such that we can look at it on the phone. Second thing is, you may even consider like some non-traditional forms of doing a portfolio. Like what if you do like, a website, like just a couple of pages, you do a blog, or it could be like an animation or something, right? Again, something that can catch, the person's eye, like the person who's hiring, and that can set you apart from the rest of the crowd. Okay, now going into the second strategy, which we were talking about, which is to segue into another creative field. I kind of really like this because, in general, I think globally, there is this whole trend now. I think it was always there with architecture practices, but it's becoming more of a thing now. It's called, having an expanded practice. So an expanded practice is where an architecture studio doesn't do just architecture or interior design. It actually, does many more things. So it possibly produces furniture. It, probably does like some annual conferences. It, organizes conferences. It does exhibition design. It could be doing videos. So basically you do like a range of creative things. So you are an expanded practice, right? So, and I do feel that, as I said before, that our architecture education really trains us to do many things. So if jobs in architecture are difficult to come by, this could be a time where you actually, use it to learn more about another creative field that is of interest to you. I also feel that society really, society, our parents, the community really stresses on this kind of linear career graph where, you study hard, you get into the right college, you do one profession, but, I don't believe in it. I feel that as creative people, we should do as many creative things as possible. In fact, sorry, this is a segue, but there is a documentary on Netflix about, creativity, and I can't remember the name, but I will maybe find it and put it up on my stories. And in that, they say that, what makes you most creative is to be able to connect dots between different experiences. So it's like, you could be, for example, like I watched this documentary and then like I see some whatever machine outside, or, I see whatever, a problem somewhere, but I should be able to connect these dots in different fields. And that is what makes someone most creative, because you're coming up with the most, out of the box idea. So anyway, so I made a list of professions that non-architects could potentially pursue. This list is definitely not exhaustive, but I have architecture friends who are in these sort of fields. You could do furniture. You could design objects, which is basically like design objects, right? You could do art and illustrations, graphic design. You could do textiles or fashion. You can do photography, 3D and rendering, videos, jewelry, and you can do styling. So this is a whole list. The other thing that, actually Vahi pointed out was that you can actually be doing all of, any of these things sitting at home. So you really don't need an office. You don't really need to interact with people. You don't need to have a physical site. You can actually be doing all of these things from your home. So in a way, it sort of becomes like this, it could either become a full-time profession for you after the COVID world, or it could still remain a side profession for you for that, extra sort of bit of money and that extra spurt of creativity, right? So, I'm quite excited. In fact, we are doing some of that ourselves, like this whole video thing that we're doing, this outreach, education, all of that is not directly a part of our practice. It's not directly, related to our projects. But we're now doing all of this because we have the time and we have the interest and the inclination of doing it. So I know what all of you are thinking. Like, I'm talking about all of this, and I'm saying, you do freelancing and stuff. So you're like, but how do I get my first project, right? Like, how do I land my first project? So that's definitely, I'm sure, the first question that's coming to your mind. And let me tell you, your first project will come to you through someone you know. So I have to tell all of you to put yourself out there. You cannot be sitting in front of your computer doing great work, and working really hard and then waiting for something to land in your lap. It's not going to happen, right? You need to talk about what you're doing, what your interest is, what you want to do to as many people as possible, because your first project will come to you through someone you know. So it could be, your friends, your family, your parents, your parents' friends, your teachers, right? So you just have to be out there. You have to be talking about it. Don't feel shy. Don't feel like you're not good enough, and just be realistic. Just be honest. You know what you know, right? And the best part is that, you are working hard. As a student, you cannot be expected to know everything. What's expected of you is that you are hardworking, you take initiative, you ask questions, right? So put yourself out there.